All right, so hi everyone, good afternoon. Can you see my screen? The right one, I suppose. Hi everyone, welcome to our Square Screen session. My name is Bogdan Gălușca. I'm a Director for Business Development at Stefanini EMEA. I'm an engineer by profession, and these days I focus a lot on application services at Stefanini and also the everything that is digital, so new services and new initiatives, so a lot of cool things. Over the last months, we've been all going, we've all been in one big global team suffering and from all our locations and, trying to cope with the COVID-19 crisis. And at the same time, while we are recovering, we're thinking about the future. There's a lot of uncertainty as we watch the news and, some of us think about our holidays. We think about, where should I go? Will it be another wave? The United States is not going very well, as we can all see. And again, there's a lot of uncertainty, but at the same time, a lot of us, we need to think about, what's next and how do we plan for the next step. So with that in mind, we have organized this session today. It's following the credo that sharing is caring. So we have a great lineup of panelists to share with you a little bit about the past, their thoughts about the present and near future, and then maybe share or some ideas, some thoughts about what's coming up next. So how that new reality will look like as of next year, or next year, the year after, and so on. So with that, I would like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves, share a bit about the company they were, their role, the company they work for, and maybe start by telling us how was this first half of the year for you. So well, let's start with Alice. Alice is in Italy, so I think Italy was the first place in Europe that got hit. So we'll let you start.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alicia Zamboni. I'm working in the Röchling group. Röchling is a manufacturing company that works in the plastic sector and produce parts and components for different divisions. I'm working in the IT department in the operation and service management function and the IT service lifecycle manager. So I'm taking care of the IT services we are providing internally in our organization. The first part of this year was really challenging for us in the IT department here in Italy, especially because of the challenges we faced in order to let our colleagues being able to working from home, providing the equipment and all the technical stuff related to that. We were also managing a huge project related to our digitalization initiatives we are carrying out in our company that are related to also to the smart working and mobile and remote working. We have a dedicated project for that is called Smart Workplace Project, and we'll introduce tools in order to enable our colleagues working from home. So the main challenges we faced were related to building task forces focused on solving issues about remote working, aligning with our colleagues working from China and Asia, because our company plants spread around the world. So we had lessons learned from our colleagues in Asia, and also we try to help our colleagues in America as soon as they also faced the same issue we had to deal with. So the first part of this year was really interesting because we tried to deal with the coronavirus situation, and we also tried to do our best to carry out the IT project we are managing. And it was not so easy because of the uncertainty about the viability of our colleagues and also the viability of our partner and supplier. We also had all the challenges and the issues related with the supply chain in terms of product provisioning from our supplier, and possibility to deliver parts to our customer. It was an interesting start into this 2020, I would say.
Thank you, and I guess that's one interesting topic we can come back to, which is the how is the sometimes you can do your own business, but if your suppliers cannot, then the entire chain is blocked, or everybody suffers.
Exactly. So we faced the crisis because of our supplier started to tell us they are not able to deliver parts, for example, to us because of they coming from other countries affected before from the crisis situation, from the crisis or coronavirus situation, and therefore we were not able to build the part that we had to provide to our customers. So an issue at the beginning of the supply chain will then affect all the upcoming steps.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Moving next, I'd like to invite Vlad. As an innovation manager, I'd like to ask you a bit about how did you manage? Obviously, I invite you to introduce yourself and what you do, but also maybe from the perspective of balancing crisis management with innovation. So how do you innovate in time of crisis? In a time of crisis.
Well, actually, innovation. I think the time of crisis is the best one for innovation because on one hand, you're challenged to find solutions for really tough issues that you can't delay to fix. And on the other hand, people are much more open to accept solutions that in other situations they wouldn't have accepted. So actually, crisis situations are facilitators, let's say, or are facilitating innovation. And I just think you need the right mindset for it, or you need some people to have the right mindset for it. So I can give you an example. Innovation is not, it's not really something that you do somewhere in a silo and bang, it happens at once. Innovation happens every day with small significant improvements that you're bringing to the table. So one example of how we've done that is related to the fact that when everybody was running, right? So people were, trying to find their feet, trying to understand how to work from home, trying to understand what tools they have available and how to make life continue. My team, for example, was running the other way. So what we've done, we've opened a channel of communication where our colleagues could have written issues that they're facing, no matter what related. So what we've done, we took the inputs from our colleagues to understand what problems they had, be it technology, be it, I don't know, psychological, be it whatever, and then to find solutions within the company. So we weren't looking at new groundbreaking things at all, but a lot of the issues that we found were actually having solutions within the company, but people just didn't know that the solution existed. So what we've done was pretty much create a network between everybody, be the middleman, to facilitate access to knowledge, facilitate access to technology, facilitate access to any solution that might help from one place to the other.
And how does that work in a bank? I mean, I imagine there's a lot of red tape with regards to what you can communicate, how security issues, how did you, because I imagine this is, for all of us, it applies that the way we communicate, that has changed the most. And we reinvented, innovated that part. What were some of the challenges that you had? Because the banking sector is, sometimes more restrictive when it comes to what you can do and from where.
Well, the biggest, the biggest win we had was the fact that we tried to reuse things that we already had within the bank. So the security and compliance and legal and whatnot checks were done, and we just reused what we had in new scenarios. So in this way, we accelerated quite a bit the chance for us to benefit from whatever solution we chose. I'll give you an example. Digital signature. We had the digital signature implemented for our customers to get loans right online. So what we've done, because we couldn't pass documents from one person to another physically, right? We send it by mail, you sign it, and then you send it to another person and so on. We needed to sign it digitally. So what we've done, we've taken the solution that we had implemented for our customers and reused it and tweaked it for our colleagues. Yeah, so we moved quite fast, gathering, you know, the list of people who need to have access to this, and training everybody, and then we had digital signature to actually sign documentation internally, right? And this is just an example of how we tried to use solutions that were already vetted versus implementing, because in a bank this is quite challenging, as you said. Implementing something from scratch, I think that would have we wouldn't have had anything, or not too much in terms of solutions, if that was the way we took.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. A different kind of perspective, I think, Anki, you can share, right? So you're in Sweden, and Sweden has been the country that has closed least, right? You've been open all along, and maybe you can share a bit also what you do, what Extenda does. I mean, we work, you and I, we work every day, so.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Ann-Kristin Hagberg, and I'm Vice President for Client Services at ExtendaRetail. ExtendaRetail is a software company, and we develop POS, point of sales solutions, back office solutions, and warehouse solutions for mainly retailers in food, fashion, and pharma. Well, we haven't been in a lockdown, but most of us have been working from home anyway, because no one likes to commute these days, and many people have been doing the shopping from home instead of going to the stores. So what we see is a lot of changed shopping habits, even in Sweden, even if we haven't been in the lockdown. So our clients, customers, that is me or anybody else in Sweden, the end customer, we have a different shopping pattern, and our clients need to adopt to that. So we are trying to help, or have been, we've been doing this for a long time now, and we'll continue doing it, to try to follow that shopping behavior of the end users, the customers in the stores or in the sofas at home. So that's a little bit different. So we're trying to do the safe shopping, we call it, and help our clients to how they will implement safe shopping solutions to in the stores.
Stefan, you can continue, because we lost Bogdan for 1 minute.
That's what I just realized. We say something that upset him or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I must have the wrong thing here.
So let me introduce myself very quickly. So Stefan Ormans, and Bogdan is back. So maybe you have a question for me, Bogdan. I was just going to introduce myself as we saw you leaving. I don't know if you hear me. I will just continue. So I'm Vice President for Information Communication Technology at Stefanini, responsible for what we call the Northern Hemisphere, which is North America, EMEA, and APAC. Interesting part, I would say, in that, and also in charge of risk management, the security part of organization, securing our infrastructure, internal infrastructure to our end users and towards our customers, just to make sure that what we do is secure when we work with our clients. I mean, the interesting part is a bit what Alice mentioned as well. I mean, when we start and seeing the COVID happening, of course, it starts with our China operation. And we kind of learn from that. Let's try to start and secure the operation as soon as possible by having as maximum of our users working remote. And everybody's been working from home for a long time now, but not maybe to that volume, to that scope. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges in the first place, is to dimension the environment, to dimension the solution we had in order to support as much as possible our entire operation from all the regions. So starting from Asia, indeed, up to going back into EMEA, and then indeed very quickly in Asia, in US, sorry, and also Latin America operation. Latin America also start moving as much as possible employee from home, which means that in the Northern Hemisphere, we still have more or less 99% of our employees working remote, which brings additional challenges. One of the big challenges, of course, is security, that we should all be concerned about. And I know Vlad, for sure, in a bank environment, this is just part of the DNA. I mean, in all the companies it is, but still at a different extent. So now suddenly we had to make sure that all the external endpoints that we certainly do not have on our network anymore needs to be properly secured, properly patched, properly updated, and guarantee that this functions so that we don't have no noise disturbance into our operation. I don't know if Bogdan is back in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I lost connectivity for a second there. Yeah, the challenges of working remotely.
Working from home, right?
Yeah, working from home. Luckily, I have a secondary connection, so I guess that's the best practice. So that took a second to kick in. So thank you all for sharing. I guess if you were to describe a bit about the thing that you found the most surprising. So obviously we're all in the managerial positions prepared to respond to crisis. We have, I don't know, disaster recovery. We have a lot of plans. But what was the biggest lesson you've learned for the future? What have you learned that you think will make your business or the business you work for more resilient for the future? Or in the case, if you want to talk also about your customers as well, what's the biggest lesson that you think you've learned over the last months? So let's see. I'll start again with you, Stefan. Since back to you, if you want to share what's the biggest thing that you think we've gone through, because I know while you were struggling and your team was doing and enabling everyone to work remotely, we were in the middle of a Teams migration as well. So that has been fun.
Yeah, no, I think, and it was mentioned before, I think it definitely forced some of the digital transformation project that all of us have been working on, and some have been delayed or not pushed, not with the same, how can I say that, not with the same envy, to make it happen as soon as possible, because people tend to delay those type of projects if they don't see the benefits immediately, or because they're scared for their job sometimes. So I think just by having this to force our organization to suddenly change and modify, we see actually that the people are prepared to change, right? Also because they realize that suddenly by having to work differently, they change automatically their habits. I mean, we talked about retail. I mean, we talked about ordering online. Suddenly everybody can do that. I heard people who says I will never order online. Now suddenly they go on e-commerce and then start ordering stuff, right? They don't want to pay. They don't want to use their cash money anymore. So that's definitely that big switch proof that in case of crisis like this, I mean, of changes, forces changes, I would say, you see that the people does that. And from our employees, from our organization, I must say that even the changes is very positive. I think a lot of our employees today are happy working remote. We've been concerned about operation, productivity, quality of the service, and this is going well. So from a pure surprising for me, I would say, is that modification in the behavior of the majority of the people, let's say, not just our company. And you see that everywhere, right, towards the entire organization. So that was pretty amazing.
How about you, Anki?
I can agree with this, Stefan. I mean, the shopping behavior is, I guess it's here to stay, the new ones. The retailers have had to adopt to our new ways of for shopping. They have to think more about this interactive shopping, where you go to the stores but you don't interact with a cashier. You do the self-checkout and so on. You use your mobile phone instead to scan, because maybe you don't want to take another scan in your hand that someone else has been holding before. So I think there is yeah, as Stefan said, a forced way of changing and forced digitalization. I think there was a plan to do it before, but it's been speeding up the implementation. So yeah, I can only agree with
how about the part of retail that has, has been hit, groceries, everybody needs to buy groceries, and that's something that we all need, even in there've been stories of people, not having what they need because they couldn't get out of the house. And there's, stories coming from Spain, where, they have a very old population in a particular region. So that was challenging. I mean, they're not digital. They don't know how to order online. So that became a problem. How about but still that part of retail, I think they've seen growth, right, in this period with the, shopping sprees and all of that, people going out. How about the part of retail that was that had to close down? The fashion retail,
I guess that if you're not into this digitalization e-commerce, you have a difficult time. So it's, of course, it's another way of shopping there as well. But at least in Sweden, shopping for clothes, for example, are more common, or have been more common before than food, I guess, from all different people. So yeah, I guess that we will continue doing that as well from the sofas.
Okay. And Alice, what was the lesson that you can share with us, or the learning that you found the most relevant over the last months?
In my opinion, there are two main lessons we learned. One is related to what Stefan also told us. So we have to be flexible, acting and managing our digital project also, because the environment is changing faster than our project have been carried out. So we were prepared to distribute Office 365 tools in the first part of this year, and we never thought about the possibility to speed up the activity because of this situation and the needs to work from home. So we have also to consider acting also in a fast way and being able to change the timeline, consider new requirements in our project, in our digital project also. The second lesson we learned, it's probably about the managerial behavior. It's about the roles and the responsibilities and the challenge to delegate the work to someone that it's not under our visual control, I would say. So our capacity to trust in our colleagues and to trust in our team, even if we are not controlling them directly. So having the possibility to check the results and providing them the required trust we have to have in order to let also them be able to work and perform their daily activity. This will probably require some change in our ways of working and in our internal and organizational rules. We have also a big lesson.
Yeah, go ahead,
Sorry, the last one is the necessity to work together in task force with, like we did, for example, with the HR department and the health and security department, because when we had to decide how many people we need to enable working from home, we had also to consider how many people needs this and how many people should be able to work from home, because as you can easily understand, in a manufacturing company, not everybody can work from home, and we had to focus on the government regulations, on the internal regulations. So we had to react very fast in terms of technical requirement to provide, change the requirement in terms of application we were providing to our colleagues, and also in our delegation skills.
I can relate to that, especially when it comes to, you know, working with your team, which is remote, and you know, with all your colleagues. And you know, I think it's been months and months since we've seen our teams, yeah, and since we got them in the same meeting room, and that does have a value. But I'll let Vlad also share, and then maybe we can come back to that.
Sure. Well, the first learning is that if you're not prepared, you know, if you don't prepare in advance, then, you know, it's like when you don't take care of your health and then something happens, right? You need the plans for this kind of situations are there for a reason. And if you don't, you know, make sure that you rehearse and you are, you kind of know how to go through these kind of situations, it's much harder to actually adapt when the situation comes. And this is, you know, we didn't use a plane recently, of course, but you know, in the unlikely event of something to happen, then what do you do, right? So this was really unlikely, and it happened, and then what to do? And I saw a lot of companies, luckily we were quite well prepared, but I saw a lot of companies scrambling to kind of react to the situation. The second thing that I think we can learn is the fact that a lot of I think we can do a lot of things in this type of situations. Like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of potential that is untapped normally in each of us, and the situations when when crisis happens, we hopefully get the best out of us. And we really found a lot of people that stepped up and were able to contribute to the company's well-being and functioning, right, and to the well-being of our colleagues, ranging from HR and facilities to IT. So, for example, within IT, we migrated from a suite to another. So we moved from Google to Microsoft in this interval, right? Like everybody was at home, and we managed to transition from Google to Microsoft with everybody at home actually relying on video conferencing and on email and on everything. So, you know, it's like changing the engine of a plane in midair, right? It's pretty much the same kind of thing. So you can imagine how critical this is. And where we started from, nobody was using actually the video conferencing tool before the crisis. Nobody, like really nobody. So I don't think it was even tested or like by anyone that it was functioning, right? So all of a sudden, that was the only thing we had, right? So capacity management, experience, it was a black box, right? So we had to find out, does it work? Does it have enough capacity? Does it actually work for everybody? Do we have any issues with it? So we had to understand how this ecosystem we had actually reacts to everybody using it. VPN, the same. We had to increase the VPN capacity, right? We had to change a bit how our computers work, so we don't overuse the VPN. So there were a lot of things that made us adapt to the situation, and I think that's a sign of everybody stepping up, right? So when this is really needed, I think I have the confidence that people step up. And this is a learning I have from this experience, because as I said, this was an unlikely event that proved I can rely on my colleagues, and colleagues can rely on everybody, right? And the third thing I wanted to say is, don't, and I know this is everywhere, don't waste a good crisis. So a lot of things that we wanted to push forward, we actually got to push forward in this interval, when people are open to alternatives and are open to looking forward to the future, and realize that what worked yesterday will not work tomorrow. So you suddenly realize that your environment is not necessarily so bulletproof, so resilient, so future-proof, and you realize that you actually need to adapt for tomorrow. So I think we did a good job of promoting some ideas in this time period, and maybe or maybe not, I don't know, this had something to do with it.
Yeah, so I guess times of crisis generate the most innovation, and in such situations where, again, it sometimes it affects people personally, it might be that, you know, that's one other reason why people feel more open to coming forward with ideas, with you know, being more proactive. But one thing is for sure, if there's something, you know, that for me I think is applies to everyone I talk with, is we're having twice as many meetings as we used to have. So I don't know about you, but we spend most our days in meetings and trying to communicate as much as possible. And there's one other thing that maybe you've seen, and I'll invite whoever wants to comment on this. We've seen people being, especially in the first part of all this crisis, people were more a bit more stressed than usual, so they wanted to be more proactive, so they tried to do more than usual, and that's a pattern of you know, everybody wanting to contribute, everybody trying to maintain that status quo, that normality in some form or fashion. So did you see that in your teams? Yeah.
Hey, if I may, I mean, personally, my team, I didn't see that much. Also because in an IT organization which is distributed between different regions, video conferencing, which was not, as Vlad said, nobody was using the video, but we were using a lot of conferencing methods in the past just to communicate with each other, because we're not physically all the time very close to each other. But it's true. I can totally understand, and I have conversation with some of our HR organization as well about that. Is that some employees feel uncomfortable working remote, right? And they have the desire indeed to be still part of the group, and that's why they will tend to communicate, try to come together, and so on. And some others will disappear, right? Because disappear in a sense that they don't know how to act and how to behave. And this is where the management and the culture is important in order to keep the contact, keep the communication, make sure that they feel that they're part of that team, that group, that organization. It's not because we are remote that we're not that same company anymore. We work differently, but we're still the same company, and we still need everybody to make it work, right? To make that happening.
And a quick question: do you have plans for the return to work, return to the office kind of plans? Is that do you have that in place? I know we do, Stefan. So I'll maybe Alice. I know in a manufacturing world is even more complicated. Still, I guess regulations in place. But is that still do you have like a strategy? And if so, can you share with everyone on the session what are the key points that you are looking for when it comes to return to the office?
So basically, the most part of employees already returned to the office, but we still have someone that is working from home, also in relation to personal needs. So schools were closed, are still closed here in Italy. So especially our colleagues that has children at home. They need to stay at home, working from home, also to taking care of their child. But basically, we all return in the office. We still have the possibility to work from home if we have the necessity, but the main part of us already returned into the office. In the first week, so in the first weeks of May, or for all the entire month, I would say, we had to provide the number of the employees that were in the office to the HR department, because they had to control if we can respect the distances and the other internal regulation we had. We are forced to have the mask if we are close to each other. We are invited to don't have personal meetings with our colleagues. So we have some internal regulation about how to stay in the office, but the most part of us already returned into the office. If I may add something about what Stefan said before, in terms of staying personally in contact with the colleagues, it was a challenge also for us. We had an internal survey after returning at work about the challenges we faced during the crisis. And the most part of the employees find out that the main pain point during the crisis and the lockdown or the smart working was the possibility to stay personal, connected to the colleagues. So it seems usually where we are traveling to work, for example, sometimes in the morning I say I would like to be alone in the office today so I can be more productive. But if I'm working from home, I'm missing my colleagues. Also, if I have to have a quick alignment with them or from personal also exchange during the day. So it seems to be an important and psychological aspect of the daily work.
I think it sure is. It sure is. And sometimes I think it's, you know, we have colleagues with say little children, or, you know, it's a dog, you know, just looking at Anki. Yeah, sometimes, you know, there was a colleague having a cat going by in the background. So I think it's normal. And in some way, you know, we miss the being close, but there's also another aspect which, you know, we've let all our colleagues into our homes in some form. But you know, let's move forward and talk a bit about the future. Let's focus on what's next and how do we prepare for what's to come. A lot of the discussions out there online and between a lot of people, they're about business resilience, right? So how do we make our businesses more resilient? How do we prepare so that next time when all of this happens, we're not hit at all? How do we, you know, what are the things that we're going to keep, right? What are the changes that we're going to implement in how we behave and how we operate? And I'd like if you can share some of your predictions about the future in your individual sectors, so in financial services or manufacturing, retail, IT, so IT services. So let's start with you, Vlad, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. And actually, I think there are two aspects here. It's business resilience and also the concept of anti-fragility and business anti-fragility. So yeah, business for a bank, indeed, business resilience is key. And I think people, so the currency of a bank is trust, right? If you don't trust your bank, then you lose everything. So of course, in this type of situation, a bank must be resilient and must be trustworthy. So this is the foundation, right? And I think this time around, the banks are quite well prepared, and at least Romanian banks are quite well prepared, and I feel that as a whole, the banking sector is much better prepared than in the previous financial crisis. And this is great, and are part of the solution, not part of the problem like they previously were. But then, after this foundation is there and these conditions are met, I think anti-fragility is the one that we need to be looking for. And not only with banks, and of course, banks I think are quite a bit slower and harder to steer in this type of situations, but for any business for that matter. So people need to keep their eyes much more open and understand patterns in behaviors and understand the needs that appear overnight and understand how they can react and adapt to the market really fast. And this needs to be done in a coherent way, in a structured way within the company, and not just bits and pieces done by one person or another. But actually, people need to be much more open and adapt much faster to the new reality. And actually, this is worth doing at any point, right? Not only during crisis, but during crisis, I think those are the opportunities that you need to make sure you evaluate. Because if you're the one that makes the difference, if you're the one that leads the way, you can make a huge difference for your customers and within your market, and become the leader of the pack. If before you were just one of the many, right? So this can make or break companies during crisis. How fast you adapt, and in order to adapt, you need to keep your eyes and ears wide open. So,
but I do want to ask you something, just to make things a bit more concrete. Do you see a change in the KPIs of the company? I mean, when I say that, I mean something more concrete, like, we're at the top level, companies are measured on profit, on revenue, on market share. Do you see some social aspects coming up and changing the fabric of those corporate KPIs, the value of a company being more than just the profit that it generates?
Keep not so fast, so not yet. And it would be really hard, at least in a bank, to see the KPIs change overnight, right? It's not really, you have a supervisory board, you have shareholders. It's not really easy to change. But I think there's the opportunity for that discussion. I see more openness, and I see more opportunities to actually get those type of behavioral, not necessarily KPIs, but objectives, right? And get them part of the strategic set of discussions, much more than they were, yeah, because this kind of behavioral patterns or objectives were there, but now they become much more obvious and much more important. So I see the opportunity, I see the door being opened, not there put in as objectives or stronger objectives, but I see that this might happen, or hopefully this is going to happen, because more businesses see the need for that.
Well, Anki, can you share your predictions with us?
My predictions, I guess that we will see different kinds of solutions for the retailers and our warehouse clients. I think that we will move from these big monoliths to more SaaS solutions, where there are smaller and more instead, because you need to, as Vlad said, you need to be flexible, you need to be agile, you need to adopt to different patterns and so on. So I guess we need to move faster and adopt faster.
So it's a matter of speed that you're describing, and that would translate in how quickly people adopt technology, or how flexible their IT landscape is, or in terms of very modular.
I think it's a combination there. Both.
Okay, thank you. Alice. How do you see the next months and years ahead?
Basically, I think that for a manufacturer company, the impact of the supply chain has a huge role. Therefore, we should be able to be prepared in terms of having emergency plans and having the fulfill the requirements also in terms of space, basically space in the warehouse, ability to stock parts or to stock raw material, and being able to go further with the production, even if our supplier is not able to deliver us what we need to continue the production here. But if we are not able to deliver our parts, then we will have issues for sure. So we should be able to have emergency plan, being flexible for the manufacturer part of the production, and in terms of the non-production office and department, we are already prepared to go further with our digital project and initiatives in order to let us be even more able to work remotely from home and from everywhere.
Now, this crisis has dealt a big hit to globalization as a whole, right? As a way of us doing business all over the world, and because of all the delays, the various stages of the crisis in various locations, will this change your supplier strategy? Like move from the no matter where, it doesn't matter where the supplier is, choose someone local because then you have more reliability, or does that change in every way, in any way?
In the short term, I don't think so, but I think that in the future we should for sure consider the possibility to have workarounds and plan B in being able to have what we need to go further with the production. And also we should probably consider the needs to be able to change our production plans in order to be even more flexible.
Okay. And lastly to you, Stefan.
Yeah, I'm thinking more into I'm thinking more into a company who's trying to do more digitalization at fast speed. We talked about agility and those type of things. We said previously, a lot of our companies are doing are trying to do agile project and digitalization project, which was going into a certain speed, right? Depending on the funding, depending on the management intention about the need for that. Now we see we increase the speed of that. There is a need for that. It's the need to go faster. I think there is also potentially a concern with knowledge of some of those new technologies that we need to have. I mean, having the workforce available to get all of that. I mean, it was interesting to see the other day that, and I'm just going to name Microsoft here, because they launched a program to train as much as 25 million people in the world by providing free training and certification into different digital application work, which means that there is that need, right? The need for training, but a lot of companies have stopped investing in training to their employees. When I talk about technology trainings, I think there is an opportunity there to, there's a need, not opportunity, a need to jump on that train as well and start getting our employees to train, invest a little bit more again on training, because we need to be ready to transform the workforce for the digitalization of tomorrow much faster than we thought originally, because we know because of digitalization, some people will lose their job, as we say, or will be reclassified to other type of activities, but giving time maybe for them to change their work. Now I think it needs to go faster. I think that's some of the prediction but I would say would happen, which means that we need to train faster some of those employees in order to get ready for the new digital world, I would say, digital economy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Stefan. I guess that's really important. So the training aspect of things. Before we go, we have the next, I guess, 10 minutes or so that we can take also questions from the audience. I think we can take a couple. If you want to ask, use the question section of the panel, the GoToWebinar panel. And until we receive some questions, I do have one more for you, which is regarding the also regarding the future. So, you know, we talk about digitalization, and you know, Stefan and Vlad, you mentioned about this, and also investment and some projects being accelerating, and this being a great opportunity to invest, right, and to convince people that to go in certain directions. At the same time, it is, at least in my experience, budgets are a bit more strained these days. It's harder to make that business case. So again, going back to the KPIs, how do you convince you know, the board of your companies to invest in a certain idea? Because what is what are the core things that you would like to have, you want to put in that business case? Who would like to answer that question?
This is related to digitalizing things. There are actually two ways to go about, and this is pretty much standard also before this kind of situation. On one hand, digitalization either is improving the way you get to your customers, because now a lot more customers are digital. So you actually have a target, you increase your target audience, and you facilitate your customers access to your services. And the ROI is, well, you can estimate it based on that, yeah. Because now your customers are somewhere else, especially for banks, right? Far fewer people are going to branches versus being online now, right? So it's quite a straightforward case. The second, and when you think about automating things, you think about new solutions that make people more efficient, this generates savings, right? This generates increased performance, this generates efficiencies. And at the end of the day, if you can, with the same number of people, you can do more and you can have happier employees, this generates savings while generating more money, right? If you look at both directions. So I don't think it's really different from what we had to do before, just that now the emphasis might be a bit different.
Yeah. Alice, I think you wanted to respond to this as well, maybe?
Yes, I'm completely agree with Vlad, because also before he said that we should try to have some benefit from this bad situation or this crisis. And in this case, for the digitalization project, we can for sure have some additional pros in our list, considering the situation we had to deal with and the possibility to let our colleagues being able to work from home, especially from those that are able to do that. But our company has to say our company is focused on the digitalization project, and the IT department is dealing with some huge projects in terms to introduce digital workflows, letting the responsible being able to approve changes or for enabling of user also from remote, from mobile devices and so on. So now we have just a plus pro that it's related to the possibility to have the need to work from home or from somewhere that's not the office.
Well, we've talked a lot about. Thank you, Alice. We talked a lot about you know, the modern workplace, if you will, the proverbial modern workplace today. We don't have a lot of questions. Actually, it's mostly thank yous from in the audience for your openness to share your experience. You know, there's a case I remember from maybe 5-6 years ago, a small startup in an ISV providing some web tracking solution and so on. And the 4 guys that started up that company, they're now world leader in that segment. They didn't have an office. So they started working from home from the beginning. Again, this was years ago, and I think the company is called Hotjar. You might have heard of them. They're used in website tracking and so on. And it was quite nice to have them. You know, the guy said, "Look, we still don't have any offices. We're 300 people strong today." When I met one of the founders, and he said, "We have only one criteria: to have our people on European time zones." So this was way before any of us started thinking in that direction. So, so some companies have already been born in this, you know, kind of environment, so they know how to operate. I have here actually one question, and I'll take only one because I think we're running out of time, which is how much percentage will you decrease your office space in the midterm? Maybe, I don't know, maybe we can take that, Stefan, because I think we have pretty strong plans on that. Or at least
we have strong plans, but on the other hand, I think, well, like everybody else, we're tied sometimes to a lease contract, but I would say from a strategic perspective, I think everybody's kind of, instead of manufacturer is a different situation, of course, but working on a short term still, right? Try to understand how it's evolving here. I think we all understand that in 2021, we'll probably still be fighting the corona situation, right? I mean, the risk of lockdown, locking in, I mean, freeing up people again and going back home and stuff like that. And the majority of the companies like us, for sure, kind of respect the kind of a 50% working from home, working in the office, try to balance the amount of resources we have. And because of that, we will see if we can optimize, I would say, our facilities as much as possible as well. Because as most of us today, our facilities are sitting there, right? Nobody's really using them. We need to maintain them. So it's an additional cost. So we are definitely looking at optimizing those spaces. But giving a number will depend on your business, will depend on your customer requirements as well. In our business, at least sometimes where we have to work from an office. But that's it. I think as an idea, I know some companies already decided not to come to the office before the end of 2021, as a good example. Can they in the meantime stop their facilities? That can be, right? Or give kind of a lifetime of working from home to their employees if they want. I think that's also the future of the COVID-19, let's say, is it creates that flexible work more than we ever imagined before, or we ever trusted before, as Alice was talking about, trust between managers and their teams. It's also about that. It suddenly created that. So giving a number is difficult, but as I said again, till towards the end of the year, probably beginning of 2021, it's probably going to be 50%. And if we can optimize 20%, 50% of our facilities, we'll do that, of course. But I'm not sure we're going to be going so far in the type of business we have.
And I imagine it's the same with bank branches, and also the retail spaces that the redefining how retail works. Well, I guess with that said, I think we'll have to close here. I think there's a ton of things that we can continue to discuss. I want to thank you once more, all four of you, for joining this Q&A and conversation around what happened and what's to come. Thank you all for joining. Do stay tuned for more Stefanini talks, and we will do more sessions like this one. And at the same time, we will also share online the recording pretty soon. So thank you once again to the panelists, and thank you all for joining. I wish you all a great day and a good rest of the week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
Bye.
Bye.